Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to do a portrait on velour paper using soft pastels. Those are the chalky kind of pastels, not the oily kind. And I do have a pastel course coming up very soon. I'm launching it this week, so if you do want to learn how to paint in soft pastels, it may be something you'll want to keep your eyes open for. I'll let you know when that class is ready in a few days. I began by sketching on with a harder soft pastel. This is a Conte crayon, and basically mapping out the face, the facial features. I basically want to make sure that I'm going to be able to fit everything on my paper here. I used some artist tape to tape down my paper so I'd have edges that I could handle the painting from afterwards, and also to kind of portion off an area on the edge that I'd be able to test my pastel colors on. Now, I've never worked with a velour paper before, and it's just like what it sounds. It's a paper that is flocked, kind of like a velour shirt. And it has all these little fibery fingers coming up from the surface that grab the pastel. So the interesting thing about this paper is that you really can't blend. I don't know about erasing on it. I didn't try, but that it grabs that pastel. So there's no dust, which is really nice. All the pastel that you put down stays on the paper, and it feels like butter just to use your pastels on this. It's very, there's no sound, like if you're bothered by the scratchy noise of pastel chalks, there's no sound. It's just dreamy is the only way I can really explain it. And I'm going in, as I usually like to do, with my darks first, because I find that like the lighter pastel sticks, because they're so opaque, they're also very overpowering. So I like to go in with my darkest shades first, darker than what I'm going for, just because I know it could be more difficult to darken things later on down the line. Although with the velour pastel paper, I found that it does keep taking layers upon layers, even when it looks like the tooth is full. And I think that's because all those little fibers have multifaceted sides to them, and they can continue to grab more color. So I know this looks really rough right now. It looks really almost like mosaic, patchy, and abstract. But as we work on, even though it doesn't blend so much, I can go in like here with this apricot colored pastel. I can kind of go in and merge my colors. So you're kind of blending by layering, and it's almost like the lighter shades that you layer on top blend things together, kind of like when you're working with colored pencil. So if you're someone who loves working with colored pencil, but you wanted to expand and go maybe to pastel and work larger, you might want to try this paper, because I think the working properties of colored pencil would be very similar to this in blending and whatnot. Or if you prefer to use oil pastel, if you were to use like a regular drawing paper and oil pastel, and you followed these techniques and the layers that I'm doing, you would have a very easy time of kind of translating that over to oil pastel. So try both. I mean, seriously, use what you have. If you don't have soft pastels, but you want to try something similar, use oil pastels. You know, try it with what you have. I did find it very interesting that it held onto the lines so well, this paper, which worked out really well for this hair. The hair had such beautiful texture and undertones, and you had these like deep shadows that were almost ebony, and then you had these rusty highlights and ochre highlights, and I really love playing with color like that, and I love being able to lay down the color and have it stay true and not completely blend or absorb into what's underneath. So I can definitely see that the velour paper is going to be something that I turn to again and again, and I want to experiment with more. But I also love the fact that it is something completely new and different, and yet it was like there was very little learning curve to it. You know, I just embraced the qualities of it, but it was just very little learning curve. And I will tell you that it's going to be in that hot mess phase for a while longer than you might expect with other types of papers, because of the lack of blending. You're going to layer and layer and layer and layer until it's done. But honestly, it made it so fun and intuitive to use that I'm very excited about this. This paper, I will try to find it to link up below. It's by Hahnemühle, which is a German company, but it is available worldwide, so hopefully you can find it. If not, I know there are some American companies, or companies that I've found in craft stores before, High Gloss being one of them, but I was buying the pastel paper or the velour paper for other projects, for like card making projects and craft projects, so it may not be acid free like the Hahnemühle is, but it's definitely would be something you could use to try these techniques. Now I love how the highlights just kind of stand up on this. And I'm using a few different colors here. I'm using a super, super pale blue, like a super light ultramarine blue. I'm using a white, a super light yellow ochre, just those like, you know, the brightest, lightest tints of these colors, because I wanted to be able to keep some of the undertones. I was afraid it might overtake a little bit, where you can keep layering and your marks stay true. I wanted to I shaded in the eyebrows with a dark brown first, and then I went in with a black Conte crayon and then a black pastel pencil to get the hairs, because I wanted to have some texture there. I didn't want it to just be solid, even though it probably looks pretty solid here in the video. And then I used the black pencil, which isn't going to be as dark as a black pastel because it's harder and it's not going to let go of so much media. I went in to do the eyelashes and the irises, the pupils, and then kind of the rims on the irises. And like with brown eyes, I noticed you kind of want to bring in some other colors. You might need to deepen your brown with some black, but then you'll want to go in with like some golden yellows and some golden browns or reddish browns to pull out those unique qualities that everybody's eyes have. So you want to make sure you do get that richness and you don't just fall into the dark and have nothing else there, because there's so much beauty and highlight and color, and irises just capture so much light. Like if you were to just do the iris and you were to blow up that picture really big and look at the detail in the iris, you would see so many golden reddish tones that would be, you know, you don't want to leave that out because that's part of the beauty. You want that glassy texture. You want the rough texture of the hair. You want the velvet texture of the skin. You want all of those beautiful textures to, you know, create a painting that's whole and representative. I loved the coral in the cheeks, and you could see these gorgeous coral undertones in the lips too in the photo, and I just wanted to kind of exaggerate it a little bit because the colors were so pretty. And I know photos often will flatten out colors, so when I'm going from a photo, like a portrait especially, I'll use the experience that I have of noticing people and say, okay, I know there's more color there. I know that that lighting is flattening things out and smoothing things out a little bit, and I want to get, because it's not the flaws, but it's sometimes the more beautiful things, the creases and the textures that make things more beautiful. And those are the things I think we judge ourselves for and we want to smooth out in photographs. So I like to accentuate them because I think that they are the unique beauty that we all have. And in this world of over-processed filters and everything, I think we lose a lot of that and a lot of those characteristics that make us unique. So whenever I'm doing a portrait, I try to put some personality into it, and I try to, you know, capture those unique, beautiful aspects that people sometimes don't see beautiful in themselves, but they really are. And I like to play with color, and I like to see the undertones. And don't mind me, I'm just starting a new podcast there on my phone. But I like to capture those little details, and, you know, make sure that as much character as can be is in a portrait. So it's not just a person, but you see a personality, I guess. So yeah, I thought about putting this in the pastel class that I was going to do, but I really wanted I didn't want to bring in any media that was hard to find or expensive, such as the velour paper. I'm not even sure how expensive it is. But I do know it's kind of difficult to find, and also I didn't want to scare anybody away with a portrait in the pastel class because it is a beginner course. So just keep your eyes open for that. It'll be I'll be sharing it with my subscribers and followers at 50% off when I launch it, so that you guys get the best deal, because I so appreciate all of the time that you spend watching my videos and hanging out with me and giving me feedback. It's really awesome. I wanted to have a little background because I knew when I took that tape off, I wanted to see a little border. I don't know if it was really necessary. That's just, I don't know. I kind of like seeing that border if I've gone through the trouble of taping something down. So I did kind of scribble in some of the undertone colors because the light on her skin had a little bit of a blue, like a natural daylight, very faint blue tint to it. So I wanted to get some of that in the background too. And plus, I just love the look of the strokes of pastel. I like that energy. It really makes it look painted. and I wanted to kind of capture that in the background where I could be a little bit more free with some line work. But you can do obviously what you want to do in your painting. And I did kind of struggle with the highlights on the lips because on one hand I really wanted them to be glossy and highlighted, but then they looked a little overdone, so I kind of went back and forth, toning them down, bringing them back, turning them down. Seriously, I could have probably been done 15 minutes earlier with this painting than I was, because for one, I was having a lot of fun with it, and I didn't really want to stop painting it because I should, you know, I notice it's a bad habit I have when I get in the groove and I'm really having fun working on a painting. Finishing is so fun, and then it's like, oh, I don't want to stop. I want to keep doing this. It's like, you know, putting more sprinkles on the cupcake. But, you know, yeah, I could have been done a few steps earlier, but I was just having so much fun refining, and I figured, why not? Obviously, this is my Sketchbook Sunday piece for the week. It's not my sketchbook because I don't have a velour paper sketchbook. Those sheets are loose, and I will probably store this with my pastels wrapped in glassine in a portfolio rather than in my sketchbook, so that, you know, because it's obviously not in my sketchbook. Hope you enjoyed this. If so, please give me a thumbs up and let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I appreciate you watching so much. Here's a still shot of the finished painting so you can see that, and I'll put a supply list down below as well. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.